There we go. Only took 2 times. I'm going to go over here and delete the one that just went through. So annoying. This will allow everyone to join. All right, and then I'm going to go share it. In the group. If you are not a part of that Facebook group, go ahead and join Gently Led Sisters. You should be able to find it. There we go. Okay. All right, guys, make sure you tell me if there's any audio issues or anything. Hey, Shara. Okay, so obviously, it being the week of Thanksgiving, I decided to do a Thanksgiving theme. And this week is definitely my favorite holiday. Let me turn my phone on silent. Here we go. Just a second. Answering a text real quick from my mom. You know, moms come first. Okay. So back to it now. Oh, thank you, Elena. Elena? How do you say your name? Elena? Elena? Today is a Monday and I felt it, but it's a rainy, cold, drizzly Monday here, which I feel like my hair is very fluffy today because of the rain and the humidity. So thank you. That's nice that you said that. But anyways, this week is, hey, Julia, is my favorite holiday, Thanksgiving. I love the atmosphere as we go into the season. It's one of reflection and joy. It's true that we live in a spoiled generation, a generation that thinks everything needs to be handed to them on a silver platter, and one that doesn't appreciate that which is given to them, Gen Z, as we like to call it, and pick on them a bit. So, how do we cultivate an attitude of thankfulness first in our own hearts? Because I think that's the key, and then the hearts of our children. So, I'm going to go through some things first off involving us, and then things that I do in my own kids' lives, trying to cultivate this thing of thankfulness. I know it's hard to teach gratitude and thankfulness when we live in a generation that literally has everything at their fingertips. And I think social media also drives this discontentment and lack of thankfulness that we see in many, you have influencers that are always pushing new products and new things that everyone wants to try. They're called influencers for a reason. So I think that's a lending to the spirit of discontentment and unthankfulness. I haven't put a lot of scripture into this. I try not to come across as preachy, so I don't, but I would definitely encourage you, as I always do, that you guys do a unit study, maybe with your kids, go through all the different thankfulness. I know for me, this month of November, we have really I've been saying over and over and over again to my kids. And it's so funny because I heard Allie probably using it as a weapon, but the other day, a verbal weapon. One of the kids was complaining, probably Lana, because those two are the ones that fight, Allie and Lana. And she said, do everything without murmurings and disputings, because that's kind of what we've been focusing on during this month of Thanksgiving. So I've been trying to really get that across to my kids that I want them doing everything happily and joyfully and without complaining, without disputing or fighting. So that's kind of what I've been pushing in my home this week, that Bible verse. So I would say pick out a Bible verse about being thankful. And if you see, there's a lot of talk about unthankfulness being in the last days. And I definitely see that that's prevalent in our society. So I want to say that while I try to live this in my own life and I try to cultivate this in my own children's lives, I have not arrived, nor am I perfect in this area. I'm a work in progress. I always give this disclaimer. I don't want anyone to think that because I have a show or a platform where I talk about things, try to give you tips. I'm implementing these in my own life as well. I have definitely not arrived. I'm not the perfect model in anything. While I strive to be perfect and I strive to get better, I have not arrived in any of these areas. So I truly believe that that when you are a thankful person, you are a person at peace with you and who God made you, at peace with your circumstances, at peace with the situations in your life, and at peace with others. So let's get into this. So, how do we first cultivate an attitude of thankfulness within ourselves? And I definitely think the first part of this is accepting who you are, maybe in form of personality. This is a more difficult one for me because being in the ministry, I've had certain expectations put onto me by others, not my husband. He's not done this, by others in the ministry where maybe I am too outgoing, or maybe I'm not enough of this, or I'm not enough of that. And I feel like if you are a ministry wife, let me speak to you. First and foremost, God made you who you are for a reason. He made you with a personality that will be able to withstand the rigors and the struggles that come with ministering to others. Ministering to others is not the easiest thing in the world. You really have to put the needs of others ahead of your own, often, most of the time. You oftentimes are not allowed to defend yourself when things come up or there's attacks, whether that's against your husband or against your kids or against your church. Oftentimes you have to let God do the work of defending you, and he does a better job than you anyway. So that's just a note. But when it comes to your personality, just know that God made you for such a time as this, and he made you the way that you needed to be to withstand everything that gets thrown at you. So whether that's you feel like you're too quiet to be in the ministry, you don't feel like you can get out of your comfort zone and talk to people and, put yourself out there, you know, God will send you the people that are right for your church and that are good with that personality, whether you think you're too outgoing and you need to tone it down a little bit. Just remember that God made you for who you were. He made you for your husband, and he knows that your personality is exactly what your husband needs, exactly what your kids need, exactly what your church needs. And this can go with anything in life. I know there's a lot of women that wish they were more this, or wish they were less this, or wish that they were, more outgoing, or wish they were not as outgoing, or wish that they, I don't know, didn't get shy when, talking to new people, and wish that they had the ability to have a platform or whatever it is. Just don't wish away your life. Don't try to morph into something that you're not. God gave us all different personalities, because if we were all the same, what a boring world that would be indeed. Hey, Shasa. Shasa is my bestie's daughter. And you are doing a great job, Shasa. And you are exactly the mother that your children need, and exactly the wife that your husband needs. So you are who Shasa has a personality like mine, a lot like mine. And yeah, she's been told she's extra sometimes, like I've been told, but God can use extra people in extra special ways. So just don't forget that. How about accepting yourself when it comes to looks? And I've done this blog post before about just when I was 16 or 17, I have the color nose, I have some would call it the Roman nose or the Grecian nose. I think I have Hungarian in my background, and that's where my nose comes from, the Cutler side. And my grandma came over from Hungary. So I've often said that I was like a Hungarian Jew back then. I don't know if we have that in us, but the coloring and my facial features, I kind of resemble them. So at 16 or 17, I was faced with being discontent with how God made me for the rest of my life, or I could embrace the nose and I could embrace my looks. And I decided to do that, because who wants to spend the rest of their life agonizing over a way that God didn't make them? I actually had an aunt who also has the color nose, and she had something wrong with her nose, and she had to, when she was a young adult, get a nose surgery. And so it completely reshaped her nose, and she had a little tiny nose. And I've always when I was younger, I was always envious of that. And I was always thinking, man, I wonder if I'll be like my aunt and I'll have to have a nose surgery someday and have a smaller nose. But it got to the point when I was 16 or 17, I'm like, Cassandra, this is so stupid. God didn't make you with a small nose. God gave you the nose that he wanted you to have. So I've had people in my past that have tried making fun of it. And I just let the water roll off my back because I'm like a duck. I'm like a duck letting the water roll off my back because it honestly does not bother me. I will embrace that and I'll say, like, yeah, I have a big nose. I've got the Cutler nose. So it's whatever. It is what it is. And I got to the point where I knew that I could either just be happy with how God made me, and that comes with body build too. There's some of you that you were naturally, you have a good metabolism. My Allie is like this, and you were built differently as far as just having a naturally slim figure. Well, that is not me. And I often say that if I ate everything I wanted, I would be 500 pounds. And I truly would be because I have a very sluggish metabolism. And that's why I think it's due to my thyroid issues that I've had since I was 15. But due to that, I've always had to be very careful and watch what I eat and work really, really hard at it to lose weight. Well, a couple of years ago, we had some haters. And since we both have online ministries, I've put myself out there. My husband has put himself out there. And there was a group that was calling me Miss Piggy. So I could have just really let that bother me, but I chose to just ignore it because you can either get really focused on words that people say about you and let it take over your whole life, or you can just laugh at it and, feel bad for them because they're so miserable that they have to bring others down and just move on. So part of being thankful is accepting your looks. It's accepting your personality, accepting the health that God has given you or the lack thereof. I know there's some of you that deal with chronic illnesses, and instead of, just comparing your life to others and I wish I could do this and I wish I could do that. And I wish I didn't have, sorry, I'm like looking for something real quick. Just a minute. Can't find it. That's all right. Or I wish I was healthier and I could do all these things. Some days it's all you can do to get out of bed, right? It's all you can do to get out of bed and take care of your kids and keep them alive. And that's okay. God gives health and God takes away health. And instead of just bemoaning, the lack of health that you have, be thankful that you could keep your kids alive for another day. Be thankful that you could feed them. Be thankful that you could get out of bed that day and you could direct the house from the couch or wherever you needed to. So it's definitely a matter of perspective. And instead of constantly complaining about your health, why don't you just thank God for the little things he has given you? The ability to see, the ability to hear, the ability to walk, the ability to live another day and raise your kids and love your husband. So it's all in perspective. Accepting our nationality. There's a lot of people that wish that they were this ethnic or they wish that they were this ethnic. And we have no control over our looks. We have no control over our nationality. We have no control over who our parents are. And a lot of people, instead of just moving on after they're grown adults, they want to blame everything on their parents. They want to complain about their parents. They want to wish or be envious of the parents that other people had. And every parent has faults and every parent has problems, but there's also strengths that every parent has. So instead of focusing on the weakness of your parents, try focusing on the strengths. Did they give you a good work ethic? Did they love you? Did they keep you fed and clothed? Did they keep you safe? Did they provide a roof over your head for those 18, 19, 20 years? So instead of focusing on all the shortcomings, try to focus on the good things that they did for you. And then also, we have no control over where we were raised and the circumstances that happened in our life, especially as a child. If there were bad things that happened in your life as a kid, you could spend the rest of your life constantly dwelling on those things, constantly thinking on those things, or you could use those things to help you have compassion on other people, to understand the plight of other people, to understand when other people go through hard times. And I feel like this is the issue facing a lot of Gen Z, is that most of them have not been through anything. And thus it cultivates a lack of compassion for other people that do have problems or are going through things. And it's a very me-centered generation. It's the selfie generation, it's the TikTok generation. And instead of having compassion, it's a lot of just entitlement and then lack of compassion for humankind, even down to the fact that um, someone could be getting beat up and people are just videoing it. Someone could be getting shot and people are just videoing it. Instead of helping, they're videoing it, thinking, oh, this is going to go viral. Once again, thinking of themselves and the fame that they're going to get, et cetera, et cetera. So those are all things that you cannot change. And it's just a matter of accepting all these things did happen to you and using them to help you grow and learn instead of becoming bitter and just resenting everything for the rest of your life or blaming all of that for all of your problems, everything that happens in your life. Because I've known people that have done that. And I agree, Julia. You've arrived as an adult when you accept your parents make mistakes and not throw the baby out of the bathwater and how they raised you. And then too, I believe, I know for me, for every stage that I've been through with my children, it gives me a new appreciation for my mom. It gives me an appreciation for her not killing me on the days I was sassing her. It gives me an appreciation for all the times she did walk me through all these decisions when I was a young adult. And it gives me an appreciation for everything she did for us growing up. And Elena said, what people say about you doesn't define you, it defines them. I think picking on someone's physical aspect is the lamest thing one can do. I agree. And I've always said, I am very serious about this with my kids. You don't ever criticize someone for their physical features that they have no control over. Now, if it comes to having a problem with someone's flaws as far as character, yes, you can help character, you can help even some personality traits, you can help that. But when it comes to physical features, how they look, their face, um, even, I don't know, just different things physically, I agree, that's really lame. So, number 2, how do we cultivate an attitude of thankfulness within ourselves? We accept our spouse for who they are and be thankful for them. This includes their personality. I feel like as wives, we often lose sight of why we fell in love with our spouse, right? And oftentimes, some of the reason or some of the ways that we fell in love with them become big irritants in our lives. One of the reasons I love my husband or fell in love with him was he's very outgoing and passionate about what he believes in. And now, some of the biggest irritants, I think I get embarrassed by how outgoing he is sometimes. Like when he gets the price for food and he whistles like that, I get very embarrassed. Like the worker has no control over how expensive the prices are. Or if he complains about the prices to the worker, the fast food worker, whatever, the waitress, I'm like, babe, they have no control over. They're not the one who set the prices. So, oftentimes part of some of the reasons that we fell in love with our spouse become irritants. So remember that you fell in love with their personality and accept that and don't try to nitpick them or change them. Chances are you're not going to change them anyways, and then you're just going to become an ag. So accept them with their strengths and their weaknesses. Every person alive has strengths and every person alive has weaknesses, and it's a package deal. So instead of nitpicking every little weak thing, just embrace their strengths and, encourage them in those strengths. We can also encourage each other when it comes to our weaknesses, but that shouldn't be your focus all the time. I think there's a time and place to talk about those things, but it shouldn't be an everyday thing. It shouldn't be an all the time thing. Just, you wouldn't like it if they were like that with you. So accept their job that they've chosen in life. And once again, this comes to minister wives. Minister wives, one of the biggest things that my husband has when it comes down to ordaining anyone, which he's only laid hands on a few people, but when it comes to talking to prospective people that want to maybe possibly go into the ministry, he asked them, the number one thing is your wife on board? Because if the wife is not on board, it's going to fail, most likely. As wives, we can ruin a lot of things for our husbands. And one of those things is if our husband is going into the ministry, we can be a burden, we can be a drain, and he's not going to be able to face the rigors of ministry and face the hardships of ministry if we're not on board. So for ministry wives, definitely you need to be your husband's biggest supporter when it comes to that, because he's going to have a lot of opposition, especially if he's doing something and he's having influence and he's standing on truth, or he's going against the grain of whatever group he's in, or he's going, he isn't swayed or isn't manipulated by anyone else, and he truly is independent. You're going to have his back, because if the whole world is against him, but his wife has his back, he'll do great things. So just remember that if you're going into ministry. Anyone else, though, the same principle applies. If you're constantly nagging your husband about his job or not supporting him, being a drain, it's going to be really hard for him to succeed at his job in whatever that is. If he sells cars, or if he, I don't know, is a blue collar job, an electrician or a plumber or whatever it is. If you're constantly complaining and nitpicking, it's going to be hard for him to exceed at that. So I am reading comments. Exactly, Chinello. And I think, dare I say it, our kids have it very easy, too easy, maybe. Chanella said, when my kids start bickering about irrelevant stuff, I gently remind my kids about the life that they never have to live. I grew up in a third world country and moved to the United States at 16. Being in the USA is plenty to be grateful for. Many people wish to have the life I'm living, and I don't want my kids to feel entitled to anything. God has blessed us so much, and he has indeed. And a lot of that comes down to hard work, because you and your husband both have excellent work ethic, and you came here and you made a life for yourself. And because of that, you didn't have anything handed to you. You had to work for it. Both you and your husband did. And that is one of the things that impressed us most about your husband. Her husband is Pastor Ofwegbu. I didn't say that right. Ofwebu. That's a little closer. Pastor Obi, who's on my husband's prophecy channel. He just had one of his sermons play today. He is one of the men that my husband laid hands on and ordained, and his work ethic is one of the things that really impressed my husband, because work ethic is huge to my husband. So they came to this world, this USA, and they created a better place for their kids, a better home for their kids to be raised in than what they were raised in. And because of that, they appreciate it, as often people who move here do appreciate it a lot more than their children. You see that in a lot of Mexican families too. They'll move here from Mexico and have a much better life, but then they get frustrated because their children, they can see, don't appreciate it or don't go through anything. So yeah, I agree, Caitlin, definitely. So appreciate your husband's allowing you to be a stay-at-home mom. In this economy that we live in fact, everything is going up here, even in rural country. So I can't imagine living in a city. I can't imagine living in a city where everything is so expensive. But here in rural country, everything's going up. Insurance is going up. Food is going up. Gas is going up. Mortgage is going up. Taxes are going up. So it's very hard in this economy to even be able to be a stay-at-home mom. And take that seriously, which I often say, budget wisely. Don't spend your husband's money foolishly. Try to find the deals, try to go to thrift stores, try to shop at Aldi, try to cook meals from scratch, do all the things to make that dollar stretch more. And just appreciate them. Don't complain. I know ladies, it's hard. Sometimes we feel like we're pulled 50 million directions the entire day, and we're putting out a million fires, figuratively, throughout our lives, but try to be upbeat and positive about it. If every day is a bad day, you might want to reevaluate your disposition or your mood or your attitude. And we're going to have days where we need him to listen to us vent, but that should be the exception, not the rule. So, express your gratitude to your husband and talk him up to your kids. Talk him up. If he's a good worker, let your kids know dad is such a hard worker and he's provided such a nice life for us, and he works really hard, and he's working 2 jobs or 3 jobs or whatever it is, and really talk him up to your kids. Number 3, how do you cultivate an attitude of thankfulness within yourself? You accept your situation in life. So be thankful and content for your home. I think that's one of the biggest ways we can show our husband that we appreciate everything he does for us, by being content, being happy. Don't be constantly complaining about your home and the problems. Every home has problems, believe me. When we moved into our house, it was a mess. And you would not believe how much better it is now after living there for 10 years. But when we moved in, it had been someone bought it. The realtors bought it and then they flipped it. So when they bought it, it was a mess. Like the animals had just gone crazy and scratched up things, tore up things. And basically all they did was they kind of patched things over. So within a first couple days, I found out that they had painted over our bathtub. And underneath was a bright blue 1970 bathtub. And they had put white paint over the whole thing. And so I tried scraping it all off, but it wouldn't come off. So for a few years until we remodeled our bathroom, I would say 4 or 5 years probably. It was like this horrible blue with like paint still on it that I couldn't all scrape it off. It was terrible. I used paint stripper, everything. They had painted over the sink in the kitchen and it was bright yellow. I actually kind of like that sink. It was vintage. So it was a bright yellow sink. I managed to get all that paint off, and they had patched over holes in the wall and then painted over them. Whoever had lived there before was a nicotine smoker, and there was just like nicotine. When the bathroom would steam up, like all the nicotine would come out and there would be like yellow streaks. So for like years, I was scrubbing nicotine off the walls. It was like in the walls. And you know what? I just dealt with the problems instead of complaining constantly about it. Why did we buy this home? This was so dumb, blah, blah, blah. I just dealt with it, and I dealt with the situations as they came up. Most of them I was able to do myself. And the home we've since remodeled our kitchen. We've remodeled both bathrooms. We've built on a room off of the schoolroom, an extra room, which is like a little suite now for my husband and I, with the bathroom off of it. We have a big kitchen, exactly what I wanted. We opened up the kitchen area into the living room. It's the exactly little country home I dreamt of, but it took time. And instead of just complaining about it, I buckled down. I did what I could. And if it needed to wait, it needed to wait. And we just waited until we had the means to do it. So make the most of what you have. Action instead of nagging, and be thankful and content for your home. Be thankful for whatever church you're attending. A lot of women think that the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. If I go to this church, I'm going to have these friends and I'll be able to do these programs, and the preaching's better and the singing's better and the people are better. People are people and churches are churches. There is no unicorn church. There will always be fighting. There will always be drama. There will always be people issues. That's why there's so many verses in the Bible about getting along with each other. So just be thankful for whatever church you're attending and make the best of it. I don't care if they're a little different, secondary issues, suck it up and don't make a big deal out of it. Just be there in your seat, be a faithful member, be the member that you would want in your church. So make it work on whatever income you have. So when I say make it work, I mean make the groceries work, make the extras work, make your life work on whatever income you have. I have done a lot to make a dollar stretch in my day. Don't complain about the lack of money for wants. I'm talking about wants, okay? Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, all those little extras. Those are not needs. Those are wants. Be grateful for the small things in life. I've often told my husband, I don't need a dozen roses every other week. It makes my heart happy when he brings home a ghost for me, or he brings home a 99-cent cappuccino, or whatever it is. He brings me my favorite snack. He asks me what my coffee order is. It's the little things that really matter to me. It's him holding my hand or wanting to talk to me or whatever it is. So be grateful for those small things in life. The small things in life make up the big moments in life, right? I wrote something about it before, but it's true. Not every day can be a mountaintop experience, and not every day can have big moments. It's all the little moments every single day that lead up to those big moments. If you want your kid to marry pure, and to marry someone godly in life, then it's the little moments from the time they're born till the time that happens that add up to that big moment. And, just be grateful for those small things. Be grateful for those small moments. Oh, Chasa said, this morning was rough and I was feeling any and everything but thankful. Is this why you do this on Mondays? It's a good way to start out the week, I guess. I actually kind of had a rough morning too. It's been a busy weekend. We've been getting to bed late and I needed to the babies were up at 1 screaming. I guess I didn't even hear them. Like Abby and Chloe took care of it, but everyone slept in. So I actually texted, I only had 2 hours of piano today, and I texted the mom and asked if we could move it an hour later, just because I was having a very slow, rough morning. So, and she was gracious and said, yes, that's fine. That's the nice thing about teaching piano from home. So we were able to move it back, and then it's gotten better since then, but it is a Monday for sure. Yes, I like that, Chanello. She said the grass will always be greener on the other side. Be content with the side you're on and take care of it. I've often heard this too. The reason that the grass is greener on the other side is because it's over a septic tank. And I don't know if that's true or not. It's just be grateful with your side of the fence. The grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence. It may look that way, but when you get over there, you're going to be regretting leaving your side of the fence. Accept your friendships and relationships in life. And I think this is a big one for women. Oftentimes we try to change or control things that are outside our realm of control. And that can come even down to our friends. So don't try to change your friends. Why are they your friends? What attracted to you them in the first place? And most of my very close friends are completely opposite of me in personality, including my bestie. But it's to the point where, like, I'm a venter. Okay. So if I'm going through something, I need to vent. So I'm like, I'll be sending her voice memos and sending her texts and like venting. She's very good at being compassionate and sympathetic. And, she'll just be like, it's okay, Cass. I'm sorry you're going through this. She is not a venter. So when she's going through something, she gets extremely quiet. And rather than just being like, Erica, just let it all out, give it to me. What's going on? I can't push her. And I've learned that. I just have to wait. Eventually, she might tell me. Sometimes she doesn't. That's just not her personality. So even though we have completely opposite personalities, I don't try to change her or morph her into something that I would do or get her to act the way I would act. I realize that she's different. She needs time. She needs space. And when she's ready, if she wants to tell me, she will tell me. And I think it would be a lot better if we did that with everyone, with our spouses, with our kids. I have a couple kids that are completely opposite of me. And rather than, try to get them to react or act in a way I would, I realize that they're different. And thus it's no reflection or, I guess, insult to me if they do things differently. They're just different people. And that's okay. So don't try to change the people in your church. Don't try to change or control things outside your realm of control. We all have our little area of delegation, right? We have our area where we have control over things. Okay. So my main thing is I have control over this person, Cassandra Ray McMurtry. I have control over myself. I don't control my husband. I don't even necessarily, a lot of times, I do control my children. But when they reach an age where they are adults, they do have free will and they have to make those choices themselves. And even with the adult kids in the house, they've all been very good at following guidance and following what we tell them. But I have to be a little hands off too, because they need to be able to navigate relationships in their life. They need to be able to navigate friendships or whatever comes up. And so I need to take a step back even from that. So only control what you can control. Don't try to change or control other things that are outside your realm of control. Appreciate the friends that you have and invest in them. Put time into them, put effort into them, let them know you're thinking about them, care for them, love them. Be unoffendable. So when I say that, be slow to anger, be slow to take offense. Realize that they might have just had a bad day and you were there at the wrong time. just be unoffendable. Try to see things from other people's point of view. Try not to take everything personally because oftentimes it's not all about you and it's not personal. It's just that they were having a bad week or a bad day or, they got thrown up on all night or their kid was crying all night and they're grumpy or they're hungry or they're tired or whatever, So it's not all about you and try not to make it all about you. Seek to always de escalate situations so they don't blow up and become unfixable because those offended are very hard to win back. It's very hard to win back the offended. And so you've always got to keep that in mind. Always try to be the peacemaker rather than adding fuel to the fire. And this just all comes down to being thankful because, we should appreciate the friends that are in our life and we should appreciate those who invest in us and those who take time out of their day to ask how we're feeling and, try to be a friend to us, and be invested in our lives. So friendship goes both ways. Good friendships aren't forced and can't be forced. They usually happen when God wants them to happen. And I've seen that in my life. At different times of my life, God has sent me friends that are exactly what I need during those times of my life. And there's different seasons, There's nothing particularly good or bad about different seasons in your life. There's just different seasons. And I've seen throughout my life that God has sent me the friends that I need at that exact time. And I'm very, very thankful for that. So, very thankful for that. So, how do we cultivate this attitude of thankfulness in our children? Well, I think the most important thing, and that's why I went over cultivating it in us, first of all, because women, let's be honest, like my husband said last night, take the halo off. We can be very unthankful at times and we can be very discontent and we can sit around and moan about how we thought our life would turn out or how we thought it would be. We didn't know motherhood would be this hard and we didn't know marriage would be this hard and we didn't know being in the ministry would be this hard. We can sit around and complain and moan, or we can just put our big girl skirts on, get up, and we can show our kids a heart of thankfulness and an attitude of thankfulness. And that's the most important thing is remember more is caught than taught. So we need to exhibit all the things I just talked about if we want our kids to exhibit those things. If we are constantly complaining or having a bad attitude about life, then our kids will be complaining too. More is caught than taught, for sure. Now, just if let's say we have all our ducks in a row and we're like perfect about this, will our kids still struggle? Probably because they have a sin nature and they're being raised in this culture. And we have a very the culture is one of unthankfulness. So to raise children that are not unthankful, we have to go above and beyond what other parents go through with their kids or do. We have to go above and beyond. We have to mindfully teach them to be thankful because it goes against the grain of what's being taught right now. One of the things that I have done with my kids is I've tried to teach them a good work ethic. Now, I will say, especially with my boys, because if they marry someone, a good Christian girl who wants to be a stay-at-home wife and mom, then they're going to have to know how to work hard and they're going to have to probably work more than the average man because it takes a lot to succeed in this day and age of inflation. And they're going to have to work above and beyond what other people work. So good work ethic, but with our girls too, because let's just face it, raising kids is the hardest thing that they will ever do. So because of this, they need to have a sense of tenacity and perseverance and dedication and grit and hard work ethic. And so one of the things I've done is I've always given them chores when they're young. All of them, especially my 3 or 4 oldest, remember from the time that they were pretty young, they were on a rotation to do dishes. Like every night they had to do dishes, clean off the table, do all that. I've always had them vacuuming and picking up the house every day. They would help me from the time they were like 1, 2, 3. We would put away the toys before daddy got home. So I would always do a big cleanup before my husband got home and then before bed because I like waking up to a clean house as well. So I'd like the house to be clean before he walked in. And then I'd like the house to be clean before we went to bed. And usually it had a tendency. So I kind of stopped being so crazy and over the top with keeping it clean while they were playing during the day. And then we just did one big clean before dad got home and one big clean before bed, but I always had them help me. We'd say the cleanup song, clean up, everybody everywhere, clean up, something like that. I forget it now because I haven't done it with my other ones. My other ones are slacking. I need to get on my little ones. But I always gave them chores when they were young, and now all my older ones have grown up to be very hard workers, good work ethic, very hard workers. I've also taught them the value of $1. And one of the ways that we did this is we had them save up for stuff that they wanted, and we still have them save up for stuff that they wanted, whether that was a piece of candy at the store or we would have them earn it. Anytime that we've gone on vacation, about a month before we go on vacation, I do a chore list, and it's above and beyond what they do. So let's say it can be cleaning up the chicken barn. It can be deep cleaning the basement. It can be cleaning all the windows in the house, something like that. And I put dollar amounts for those. And when they've completed those, then they get that money and they save it for vacation. And then that makes them appreciate the souvenir that they get, or if they want to blow their money on a gas station, they're really, prone to blowing your money on gas station stuff. But if it's money that they had to spend for cleaning up the chicken barn, they might be a little less apt to spend it on junk food and instead spend it on a souvenir. So, different things like that we've done in our life. Talk about the goodness of God. I think this is big. And I want to talk to ministry families here for really quickly too, because in ministry families, you have to really focus on this, especially when it comes to people. Cultivate forgiveness and grace in your kids, not bitterness and resentment. And I've seen this go both ways. I've seen the ministry families who have been hurt, and instead of moving on and teaching their kids grace and forgiveness, they become very bitter. And they put burdens on their kids' shoulders because the kids see that people have hurt their parents and they see how bitter their parents get. And then they want nothing to do with church or the ministry. And they oftentimes walk away, and they're still in, like, they consider them a prodigal because they walk away from the things of God. But that has a lot to do with how the parents dealt with hurt in their lives and dealt with attacks that came their way. So be really careful about fostering forgiveness and grace in your kids and not bitterness and resentment. Focus on the blessings of the ministry, not the hardships. Focus on the blessings from your church members, not the curses. And one thing with my kids, I've tried to be very intentional about is that focus on all the perks that come with. I mean, we get to go on soul winning trips, and you get to go to conferences in other states with us. And, we get to go out to eat with a visiting pastor and his family. And so, focus on the blessings, not the hurtful things that come in ministry. And I think this can go for any family that's in a church, because any family is going to face conflict at times. So instead of nitpicking every other family in the church or talking about all their faults, where your kids are going to hear that, your kids are going to hear you talking about other people. Focus on the good things. Focus on the good things from the other families. This family is a blessing because they do this, and this family helps out so much, and they're so kind, and they really look out for the needs of others. So it's just a overall attitude of appreciation for people and not judgment. So memorize scripture about thankfulness, and, maybe have a memory verse that's pretty easy. Do everything without murmurings and disputings. Just have a super easy verse that you can spout off, and then your kids that can be going through their head the whole month, and then you choose another one. I still remember verses. I was in Awanas when I was younger. Cubby, and then, like, you work your way up, in the little vests and little patches. So cute. And I still remember verses that I learned back then. I loved Awanas. I loved it. And when kids learn things from the time that they're really, really young, it sticks with them. And it stuck with me over 40 years. One thing that you can do is pray before you eat. That way they're seeing that you're grateful for the food you're about to eat. Teach them to go without. And when I say without, like, teach them it's okay to be hungry, thirsty, or tired at times, because there's going to be times. There's been times where we're soul winning for a couple of hours and they haven't eaten. It's like 1 and they haven't eaten since 9. Oh no, 4 hours, It's not that big of a deal, but to kids, it's the end of the world if their stomach even growls, right? We'll teach them we're going to eat. You're not going to die. It's okay to go 5 hours without eating. You'll be okay. Teach them that it's okay to be hungry and thirsty, tired at times, but it doesn't give them the right to treat others mean or nastily or just be a grouch, because there will be times when we're inconvenienced. There will be times when we're hungry. There will be times when we're tired. And that doesn't give us the right to be mean to others or nasty to others. Let me see. Reward grumbling or complaining with nothing. And oftentimes I want to give my children, we want to give our kids good things, right? Because even the Bible talks about that, how we want to give our kids good things. So why wouldn't the Father want to give us good things? But if I feel like my kid is complaining or grumbling about something, I'll often just not allow it, whether that's a piece of candy from the gas station, whether that's an extra cookie, something that's just a want and not a need. I'm not talking about depriving them of food or something. I'm talking about depriving them of a want. Oftentimes if they're grumbling or complaining, they get nothing because of that. Praise efforts to share with others, give to others, etc. And there's a fine line with this. I don't believe in communism. So I don't believe that if there's a possession that one of my kids has or has gotten for their birthday, etc., that they're just like obligated to let their sister play with it just because they want to, because then that's going to cultivate an attitude of selfishness in the other one. So I do think that my kids, they need to respect that all possessions are not theirs and that person doesn't need to share with them. But if that person decides to share with them, I praise that. Good job, you're sharing. I don't believe in forcing them to share, but when they do, praise goes a long way with little kids. So I will praise those efforts. Good job, you're sharing, whatever. So I praise the efforts to share with others, but I don't force them to because I don't believe in communism. People think that's funny, but no, it's true. It's an entitlement thing. It's just because my neighbor has a nice car, it doesn't mean I get to go over and take that car. And the same concept as with kids. Just because Hannah wants something to Kelly is not obligated to share that with her. But if Kelly does share it with her, good job, Kelly. You shared. That was nice. You didn't have to, but you did. That was very good of you. So I'll do that. Teach them to put the needs of others before their own. One way that you can do this is to get involved in ministry, get involved in soul winning, get them going out and knocking doors and seeing the state that some people live in. And this will teach them a lot about compassion. It will teach them about what's out there in a way that, Hollywood won't or watching TV won't. So in a way, that the world can't teach them. Soul winning will teach them a lot. So Beth asked, how do you keep the siblings' items safe from the littles? I put that on them. I tell them that they need to put it up where their siblings will not get it. So that could be on top of a dresser, on top of their closet, in their dresser drawer. Oftentimes they'll get upset if they leave something out. Now I'll get after the littles, that was not yours. You should not have touched it, and the appropriate discipline will be handed out then too. But I do put the pretty much primarily responsibility on the kids whose item it is. Like if it's Lana or Allie's, they need to take care of it. And that's just personal responsibility, right? Don't leave it out where your little sister can jump on it. Don't leave it out where they can throw it against the wall or whatever it is. So that's kind of what we do in our house. But yeah, get them involved in ministry at church, whether that's the music ministry, whether that's the soul winning ministry, whether that's helping cook and clean. That will teach them a lot. And every week here, we have the opportunity to do that because we eat here every week. So teach them to cook things for it. Have them go to nursing homes with you, and sing. And we go to the nursing home, and I feel like the ladies there are as big of a blessing to us as we are to them. And they love the kids that come. Yesterday, I had little treat bags made up for all the kids. It was so cute. But they always encourage me just because it brings me joy to see how much joy bringing the kids, brings to them. And there was a lady there, she's 95, and she was telling us yesterday that she thinks the reason she's 95 and has made it this long is, well, first of all, she walks every day. And also, she's never drank coffee, liquor, or smoked. So if coffee has anything to do with it, I'm a goner because I probably shaved 30 years off my life with all the coffee I drink. But she said she's never drank coffee, she's never drank liquor, and she's never smoked. And she thinks that's the secret to her longevity. So, but it's hearing neat stories like that. She's been alive 95 years. She was alive in the 1920s. So that is really, really, really cool. Or late 1920s, early 1930s. So think of all the history that she's seen. That doesn't come from history books. So get them involved in ministry. I highly, highly encourage that. Get plugged in your church, get your kids involved in ministry, teach them to put it, the needs of others ahead of their own. Talk often about what God has done for us by sending his son. That will cultivate thankfulness and appreciation in your kids. I try to do that every night with my babies when we're talking and we're praying. Even in my prayer, I'll say, thank you so much, God, for sending your son to die for us. And we love you and we love him. We love Jesus. And, I'll put that in the prayer. But yeah, teach them to serve and help out others. And I think that comes with being involved in ministry. There's been times where when our neighbor was alive, he had the girls pick up sticks and he was going to pay them. And I told the girls, I'm like, just tell him not to worry about it. He was an older gentleman that was a bachelor. And, just teach them to do things without thought of reimbursement. Teach them to do things just to be a blessing. I try to give our neighbor eggs just because we have so many eggs and she's offered to pay for them and I'm like, no, that's silly. We have extra eggs. We're going to give you eggs. So you lead by example in this area. Look for ways to help others, even if it's as simple as a pack of eggs or your kids picking up sticks or your kids picking up leaves or raking leaves or whatever it is. So, yeah, I agree, Shasa. She said, give up coffee, live to be 95. You'll be miserable, but you'll live to see 95. And it's so funny because this lady too, she must have strong bones because there was construction going on a long time and she would go across the road, walk every day, go across the road to Kroger and she said she would get her medicine and buy vegetables or something. I don't know. And she fell like twice in a hole and the workers had to help her get out of the hole. And she's a 95-year-old lady and she didn't break anything or anything. So she must have strong bones too, probably from her lack of smoking and lack of coffee. I don't know. But yeah, I definitely choose to be happy as well, Kaylin. So that's funny. But yeah, the biggest thing and the biggest way you can cultivate thankfulness and contentment in your children is by number one, you being happy. You being happy and you exhibiting what a life of thankfulness and contentment is to your children. You not complaining about things. You going with the flow. And even when life throws you curveballs, not freaking out about it, showing them what it's like to be thankful even in the hard times, showing them what it's like to have faith that even though I'm going through this hard time, God will see me through and God will help me. I've often told my kids that, faith is where, what is the saying? Faith is where the rubber meets the road. And we can talk all we want about having faith, but when it comes down to actually having it, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to just be still and rest in the Lord and wait for him to work in our lives. So the biggest thing that you can do is show your kids how to be happy. Show your kids that you are happy. Show your kids that you are thankful. Show your kids that you are content. And they will pick up on that. And hopefully they will learn to exhibit a life of thankfulness and gratefulness as well. So rubber meets the road. That's it. So I got it right. I'm horrible with sayings. Ask my kids. I mix up words all the time. They make fun of me all the time. But I'm like, you know what? You knew what I was talking about. You knew what I was talking about. So that's cute, Beth. She said, my husband would say when I said something about him eating wings, he'd say, you got to die of something. May as well enjoy it. And that's how I feel about coffee. So definitely. All right. Well, I hope all of you ladies have a great Thanksgiving. Thank God for all the blessings that you've had this whole week. Let's cultivate a thankfulness in our own hearts and in the hearts of our children all this week, every day. Every day, think of a way to be thankful. Show your kids how to be thankful. Show your kids how to be happy. Go love on your children and your husband this week. Enjoy your holiday. It's my favorite one. I look forward to it every year. So have a day of feasting. It's biblical. Like my husband said yesterday, it's biblical to have a day of feasting. So I love you all. I'm grateful for you all. And I will be, Shara. I'll be praying for you. And I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, Beth. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, Kaylin. And all the rest of you listening. So